because you are that, you are capable, you are gifted, and you are so unique. All of the things that you may hate about yourself are your strengths. It's okay to be soft. It's okay to be opinionated. It's okay to be different. And it's so okay to just love. The world awaits to receive you.
Yeah, so much problem with me so-called friends. Problem with the girl I love. Only for them we said them no popcorn. Them never know the place I was. People we know the real struggle me feel. A people like Squid and Cause. This music is like a battle to me. So much hatred and grudge. But in the midst of all his enemies, try you keep me firm and strong. Bad mind and jealousy just get me feet. Try you keep me firm and strong. Yeah. Give me the energy we need. Try you keep me firm and strong. And you only keep winning my enemy.
Blessings, blessings, blessings. Let me make sure y'all can hear me.
Strong already.
Hold on.
Strong already.
All right, we're in the building. Just want to make sure that you guys can hear me. Yes, yes, yes. It's extra light in the flesh. Yes, Grace Levi, Miss Lashley. Let me put my arms down because I'm a little sweaty tonight. That's how I get a little nervous. Okay. So y'all get a full body view. Today, I just wanted to come on live to talk to my people. I know that this platform is severely censored, but this message is going to get out to the ones who need to hear it. What I have noticed is that I put content out and then it be a little people who watch it, but some of those people are very significant. So I'm starting to hear some of the things that I say being repeated, or maybe that's just the vibe. So I'm grateful for one or two because the way things are supposed to be set up, I'm not even supposed to have one or two views because of what I know and what I stand for. And what I stand for is self sufficientness, unity under God, and that's not unity under the state of the United States of God, but under actually righteousness. So y'all know that I'm a Hebrew sister. Yes, I am. And this channel, Uncensored Enlightenment Talk, is really supposed to be focused on enlightening my people, where we're going to talk about things that they don't usually talk about. Now, as you see, what I've been able to post was more so celebrity gossip and bringing international news in with a little bit of spin, as well as I told y'all, dropping my commercial representing my business because I stand for independence at the end of the day. So if I have to broadcast myself 1,000 times a day, every day of the week to promote my own product and my own brand and what I stand for, what I know God has sent me out here to do, that's what we're going to do. So what has prompted me today to actually just go into this subject is the actual affirmative action bill. Now, I have explained to many other individuals who have been on this platform before. It was called Uncensored Enlightenment Talk. It was called Extraordinary Light. And there were some things that I went through in my life that really educated me. The new subscribers may not know what I'm talking about, but I have been through a lot on the internet streets, restarted my page once or twice. And I guess the algorithm doesn't like that because I wanted to switch the tone on the things that I was connected to prior. Okay, that's a whole nother live. And I want to talk to you guys about that because that actual movement is very dangerous for the Black community. And that's called the Secure Party Creditor Movement. Okay, I know a lot about that. And this is how I actually catapulted into learning about nationality. I learned a lot about the Moorish temples and how that started with Jew Ali. And it went on to make me go down a road of biblical historical review for myself and revisiting the Bible, also teaching myself, learning how to research law, going through legal nursing consultant, actual general certificate program, put me on that path to understanding the structure of law, where to find it. And I took that information myself and enhanced it. I don't know if you ever heard me say, and maybe not on this platform, but I was allegedly, not allegedly, but I was admitted or accepted to a legal program. But because I'm a single mother and I know I had to make sure that my kids who are going to college the next few years will be prepared, I opted to basically hold off, teach myself, continue to move forward in my nursing career. Okay. Now I'm telling you this so you guys can get a more foundation of who I am, because you really don't know. You see what I'm saying? You really don't know where I come from. Where did this lady come from? So I'm not really new to the YouTube streets. This is why we are censored, because of the type of things that I have been connected to, possibly my Google account and all that. So I totally understand, as far as a diverse amount of information, I have it and I would love to share it with you guys. So instead of just limiting the platform here to YouTube, as you know, guys, I have expanded. But this particular broadcast is just for YouTube, just for you guys to get to know Lashley. That's my last name. That's what I go by. But you guys know me as Grace Levi. Now today, the actual topic about what type of position we are in, and are we in over our heads. This is what I had to think of. This is the things that I had to think of in my life position. And that's why I shared with you some of my background. Going into the field of nursing and going the conventional route and still having that rebelism in me, coming from Newark, being a hairstylist, and then, having to, go. I didn't have to go into nursing, but I had a bloodline that was connected to nursing. So nursing is in me. Going into nursing with all my heart and all my love, and literally being traumatized, used like a dog, and watching people be treated like animals. Okay. Now, what I will say with that experience, that I have learned so much about the system, about myself, about what I want to represent for my life and my connection to God, and what I can do for the people. This is why I'm here. About 6 months ago, I had mentioned to you guys in a few other broadcasts that I decided to walk away from the bedside of nursing. The reason why, not only because my soul could not deal with the things that I have seen, but also because I knew that there was a cap on me as a Black nurse. There's only few that can make it through to make it to corporate or be in significant positions within these organizations. I have been in positions where I was told, oh, you do a great job, all the patients love you, but you're not tenured. Okay. And they didn't use that word, but I needed to be spit shine. So I'm telling you this to say I understand what the average Black person goes through. I don't throw my credentials out there to say anything, but the reason why I do, because in the Google algorithm, I believe that makes me more credible. I have to fight for my credibility in their eyes because of the things that I have been connected to. So I want you guys to understand why I put these type of things out there. But over time, I had to figure out, when I saw all of these traumas going on in the sector of healthcare, which I love so much and nothing that I can do, literally the people around me were numb to literally taking care of patients. So I had to say, what am I going to do? Am I going to be within this system, go with the status quo, and not get where I want to go in this system and deal with the abuse, or move forward? So what I have chose to do 6 months ago, going on 7 months, was literally leave the bedside of nursing and pursue the businesses that I have. Now, going through this ordeal has been a big transition for me. Not only did I have a chance to get back acclimated into society outside of the bedside, because I was a night nurse, so I was, I couldn't do the daytime corporate nonsense, I was that type of nurse. So I really was like shut off from the world, kind of, and traveling from state to state. You really just keep yourself in a hotel. You know, I had my kids with me, being a single mother, homeschooling. It was a lot, and it still is a lot. But I noticed that I lost myself. Okay, and that's what I think most Black people don't understand, that they're living a life that they're actually lost, and they don't know who they truly are because it's based on the system, it's based on the status norm. I literally had my parents or my mother tell me, when you gonna get another contract? When you gonna go back to being nursing? And I'm like, listen, I'm working hard every day. I'm pushing my own business. I'm making videos. I'm doing what makes me happy right now. And I think this is something not only that makes me happy, but that's going to sustain myself because I see the writing on the wall. Now, that's what we're going to be talking about today, the writing on the wall for Black people. We really have to realize what position we're in. Okay. And I told you that story, and I'm going to continue to tell you stories about what I have went through so you can understand that I'm talking from a perspective of us, not you, not just me. Literally, I know there's people outside of corporate, inside of corporate, all through the United States that goes through these type of feelings and disparities of feeling not accepted in the actual society, pushing, working very, very hard, having your ideas, your things stolen from you, you being censored, not even being able. The censorship in itself is stopping me from even costing me more money as well to push my product, as well as stopping me from making money. This is what they do to Black people a lot, allegedly. Okay, that is said by Ice T. Ice T. I'm sorry, Ice Cube. The video that we just released was some of his IG posts, and we put that together with Kyrie Irving's situation, as well as my favorite guy. I'm scared to say his name because it gets censored, but Mr. Dalton. I have highly respect for him and what he's doing. Now, the reason why I have respect for them because what they are referring to is something that we really need to pay attention to, the Black community. And I'm not saying religion. I'm not just saying I'm not a Bible pusher, but I am into history and learning about the secure party that catapulted me into nationality, that made me understand that Black was not an actual nation. There was no place called Black man. And I start to look at every other nation. They're called Chinese, Japan, Italian, and they're coming from these places that is connected to the name. But us as Black people, we're called African American or Blacks, which in itself, as we know, is an oxymoron. So that made me go down the yellow brick road even more, understanding that our status in the United States is literally being written in law and taken out of law. Okay. And this is what brings us to our current topic right now, where they have pulled the affirmative action bill. Now, as I mentioned to you guys, I'm a very independent thinker. I don't believe that this system is really set up to help us. This is the reason why, is because of the experience. I don't base what I say based on a hope and dream. I don't, I know that seems like that's pessimistic, this, that, and the third, but I have to be honest. I base it on what I see, patterns of behavior, and now I actually base it off of biblical fact and understanding how certain people have a pattern of behavior that has to be literally corrected by God, not us. So that makes me think, what are we going to do in a situation like this? We can have so many bills, so many laws enacted, but if the heart of man never changed within this world, within this system you call America, nothing is never going to be applied correctly to us. So that brings me back to say, what position are we truly in? Are we in a position of strength? Are we in a position of being able to move forward? As I have referenced this before, to the Black people that was in Ukraine, that was trying to get out of there. These were exchange students coming from other countries. Africa had money to get out, but they couldn't, because that nation showed their actual face and how they felt towards Black people. And they said, you're not getting on our buses. You're not doing that. And if you don't know, because the mainstream will not tell you, allegedly, it was allegedly Russian troops who got these Black people out. Now, it may not mean nothing to you because you're Black American, or you're Black this, you're Black that, and you're not part of where that goes on. But once you start to travel place to place, You like I did. I didn't travel all over the world, but I definitely traveled around the United States and have traveled outside of the United States. There is a tone towards Black people. If how can I say? You don't forcefully represent yourself right, and forcefully represent your right self right doesn't mean, oh, you combative, or you're gonna go back and forth, or you got to have a high level of education. No, spiritually and vibrationally, the other nations look at us as though we're below them, point blank period. And this is what I have noticed, and I have noticed that, even working in my field, I had to literally come in with the highest degree of understanding, compassion, and diligence, and diligence in who I am to how you say, to pull or cultivate that respect in my field, which is so ridiculous. And I know a lot of you guys feel it. That is not normal. We should not have to fight to be part of anything. Now, I understand what our ancestors have did now, and I do consider the Black American ancestors who fought for their right here my ancestors, even though I am born here in Brooklyn, born here, because some of you Americans like, it don't matter. You're people from another country. I will say that my father was born here. Yeah. His mother was born in Barbados, and my mother was born in Haiti, and my grandmother, my mother's side, was born in Haiti. Okay. So what that goes to say, I still connect myself to the tribe of Judah, not only because I know by blood, by DNA, E1B1, that we are connected, but because your same trials and tribulations is pretty much similar to our trials and tribulations, and the way they look at us is the same way they look at you. Okay, okay. So I want you to remember that when anytime I talk, this is about the unity of not only Hebrews but of God's people, of people who have like minds and good hearts, because we're going to be the only ones that's going to be able to survive some of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight. Okay, so I went in a little bit, just to give you a little bit more background about me, get to know Grace Levi, who I am. I know I could be comedic, serious, say some off the wall stuff, but I'm really this platform. All my platform I wanted to use as a growth medium. Talking about concepts that people were afraid to talk about, bringing things to attention that we really need to talk about that the mainstream won't. But as we know, this is uphill battle, and I'm going to continue to uphill because I don't take no for an answer. So, what I truly feel is there are three things that's majorly wrong with us in the Black community right now as we stand across the world, not only just in America, everybody, all of us. We're spiritually bankrupt, we're financially bankrupt, and we're ethically bankrupt. What does that mean? What does that mean? That made that, and I'm going to tell you again, like I always say, you're going to either be enlightened, offended, or both here. Yes, yes, yes. But it's good because it's going to make us grow. I don't mind people telling me the truth because it makes me grow. So even though it hurts a little bit, it's all right. It builds those muscles. It'll be all right because people tell you the truth. They really love you. Those fake people be like, oh yeah, you so perfect, you so pretty, and then you got a booger on your nose. Those are not your friends. Okay, your yes men are not your friends, literally. All right, spiritually bankrupt. We don't have no connection to God. Where do you hear? And I'm gonna, yes, I am. Click off if you don't like it. Click on if you do. You have to understand, regardless of what material items that you possess, you don't possess, whatever you see in the world going on, you have a creator. Everybody has a creator. I don't care what you call them. You call them this, you call them that. You have not made you. No human has made us. You didn't make an animal. You didn't make the trees. So I don't understand how, as a people, that we are not fixated on what has created us and got us into this situation. That's the first thing, because when shit go wrong with me, I'll be like, what is going on? There's something, it has to be something bigger than me that's doing this, because this is crazy, especially the way things work out in my life. It definitely makes me think like that. And that's usually because you're in a path of correction. I'm just going to keep it real. When you're in a path of correction from the Most High, He's going to bring you through some shit. So He done brought me through a whole lot of ups and downs, through from childhood all the way to now. And I'm just like, Lord, am I still in correction? Because at some point in my life, I have been spiritually bankrupt. And I'm here trying to fill up my cup every day with prayers. Trying to live righteous, what I call righteous, not what you call righteous, not what just the Bible called righteous, but will feel right within us, not based on greed, not based on intended need, making stupid decisions. Because there's times where I really need stuff, and I'll be like, no, I'm not doing this because this is not right. There's been time that I walked away from positions with no other job. Yup, I'm that renegade. Like, baby, we ain't about to do this because this ain't messing with my soul. This patient ain't dying on me. Then I'll call the agency. They be like, Lashley, the contract don't want you to come back. I'll be like, look, this is what happened because I'm working on filling up my spiritual cup of integrity. And I think that's one of the first things that Black America needs to do. We have to fill up our cup of integrity. We continue to literally follow hip hop artists. Okay, I just want to make sure that y'all can hear me. Yeah, we can continue to follow up hip hop artists, stardom, and then we're making these videos basically saying, oh, our artists are worshiping Satan. They're pretty much showing you what they're doing, and they're putting curses upon you. They not only just the words, but the things they're doing, the visions that they're showing you. So as a nation, we're spiritually bankrupt because of our lack of knowledge and the things that we pay attention to. Financially bankrupt. We are one of the most, I think, abundant people in this world when it comes to being able to bring in resources, but to be able to keep resources and build assets, that's the actual question. We have a lot of people out there stunting. They're out there stunting. They talking about what they got, who they sleeping with, and literally have us looking like we're being walked like dogs out in society. Okay, we have corrupted a lot of nations with our greed, our greed. I'm not talking about the other nation. We know what they are, but I'm talking about the way we look at money, the way we spend money, what we do with it. Literally, it's not doing anything for us or building up our nations. We don't have more than 100 Black-owned schools, maybe not even 50 in the United States. We don't have at least 50 or even 25 Black-owned banks. And can I go on? Hospitals is way below 10 Black-owned hospitals, if there is one. I don't really know. Those type of things. These are the things that we that's why these are the things that I consider us being financially bankrupt. We don't have anything to keep our nation of people structurized as well as educated. So when it comes to situations where they do affirmative action bills, we do have HBCUs. But as mentioned, when tomorrow we're going to do a reaction to Dr. Umar and what he talked about, some key elements. This is not one of the first. This is like the 10, 15 step towards not only segregation, but also backstepping us as Black people and our mind. Okay. We fought to get into their schools. I would assume because you felt like the water was clearer. And I would say, because I have been to schools that's in different districts, and the districts allegedly with the more money has the best schools. The schools with the more money has more predominantly of European descent. So yes, they have a higher level of concentration of money and resources going there. So naturally, you're going to have more better education in those areas because of the money, diversity, and where it's being shuttered to. These are some of the things that we have to focus in on the Black community as far as where our money is being shuttered to, the curriculums that's within our school. This is why I had to homeschool my kids. When I moved from Jersey to Georgia, I saw that there was a big difference in the curriculum, big difference, especially coming from North. I don't care how hood North is, how much gangbanger it is. They do that because their soul is corrupted, not because they're stupid. Literally, my kids was in third and fourth grade. They used to be like, Mom, it's crazy because those kids are really smart. Like the guy he was reading really fast, and then he went and did this and beat up the other guy. Like he's like, they're just getting in trouble for no reason. He's like, but they're very smart. Exactly. It's not about the mind, it's the level of influence. So we're financially becoming more bankrupt because we don't have institutions. We don't have assets to reallocate the money, and we're not building equity within our nation, period. So it deeply alarms me, and that's why I stopped playing with people when it comes to the voting thing, especially when you have someone like Ice Cube who has a platform. Yes, he's a star. But damn, you just had Trump as the president. Baby, you want to discriminate on Ice Cube, but you made Trump the president, okay? Yeah, we're going to just take a whole glass and shut the hell up, especially the black Republicans. They definitely had something to say about Ice Cube, and he wasn't even running for president. He was literally saying, let's just put this vote together and make it make sense, have a list of things that we want to be accomplished before we vote, and we can get it in. Now we're going 4 years later. Not only did the president that's in house did not do anything for the black community, but he actually set the black community back a great amount. Not only because of pushing this affirmative action bill, but also I think the LGBTQ movement has literally just shadowed over anything that we could have been talking about over these last 3, 4 years. Point blank, period. We have not got nothing done in the last since Obama. Okay, nothing. So keep saying, oh, your vote count, your vote this, your vote that, and then you realize what it really is. We standing here today, and literally they're removing a protection in line that regulates people who innately dislike you from keeping you out of their institution. That even sounds crazy for me to say it because when you know, and I'm not saying all white people, okay? I'm not saying that, but it's people who have the heart of Esau, that has a heart that hates God people. I'm just going to hate all good people. They even going after the white Christians, okay? White Christians understand what I'm talking about. When I talk on Big Chew and I talk on Rumble, I promise you, the white conservatives, and when I break down the story about what we're going through, the actual another perspective from a black person, and it's not just, what they portray on TV about us, the way we communicate. They're like, oh wow, they really going through what we going through. It makes sense. Okay? We're kind of on the same side because what you're seeing here is actually, I believe, and this is my opinion, I think that it is actually a biblical war between, and that's not biblical, but I honestly think it is, but it didn't say specifically these two nations. But I do believe that it is a war between like the nations of Greek and Rome. Okay, I consider the people who are Greek the Democrats and Rome the Republicans. If you look at the Roman Empire, they greatly remind me of the way the Republicans act. They can be barbaric, very straightforward, don't care about others. They're going to conquer. Then you have the Republic, the Greeks. They try to be politically correct, inclusive, but at the end of the day, they're very underhanded, and they had all of this crazy witchcraft and crazy stuff going on both sides. On both sides, they both doing bad stuff. Okay, so I'm seeing that with the nations right here of Europe, and I think that we're in the middle of that fight, black people. Honestly, if you don't see that, we're in the middle of that fight, and I honestly think that this is the time right now. This is why I'm making this. This video right here is going to be the video that I'm going to be able to come to 3 years from now and say, I told you so. But I'm going to really pray that we as black people have moved in another direction because I believe in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to be in deep, deep doo-doo. We're going to be in deep, deep doo-doo. If we don't get a grip on our kids, their education, their mindset, having skills such as being able to build, plumbing, heating, HVAC, electrician, nursing, doctors, architects, engineers. If we're not pushing our kids to do this, we're never going to be on the playing field for one. Two, we're never going to be able to build a nation or even be able to sustain ourselves. Okay. When I finish running off at the mouth, I'm going to be showing you an actual video that is from Amos Wilson that highlights some of the things that he predicted, and this was in the 80s, that you're gonna, if you listen to today, is actually happening right now and how we're being phased out. So ethically, we're ethically bankrupt. Now, if you think that it's okay for us as black people to literally everywhere we go be bent the fuck over and have our ass in front of the camera, I'm gonna let you know that is not acceptable. Point blank, period. It's not acceptable. It's not ethically valuable. And I'm going to tell you from a spiritual note, it's literally demonic. You're like, what? Yes, the ass, the butt is where feces come out of. That's where defilement come out of. And that is considered a pathway that like you're taking out toxins and you're blaspheming the Most High or the Creator or your world and people around you when you bend over and show this part. This is spiritually what it is. Okay, it is. So it's not integrally good for us to be doing this. I'm gonna just keep it honest, and I'm a Caribbean woman, and what we do is not the best. We whine, we do all of that, and I understand, but we have to have some type of modesty and some type of ethical behavior amongst us as a nation. Okay, you don't see other nations that's out doing this, and the only reason why they're doing it is because they're mimicking us. Period. They're mimicking us. Ethically, we talk about our man and female relationship. We're not gonna get deeper in there. I'm gonna save that for another live, but you know how I feel about that. We have a lot of dynamics to fix within our male and female relationships. We definitely do. Without that even being fixed, we're not even going to be able to address the rest of the issues. Okay. Now, the U.S. Position right now, if you cannot hone in on it, it's very rocky. It's rocky financially, socially, especially when it comes on a national level. Um, Financially, because we know that the dollar in itself is the petrodollar. Now, if you don't understand what the petrodollar that is, that means that literally the value of United States money is connected to the vested interest of other nations having or forcefully being forced to trade in American currency when they need gold. This is why a lot of nations has been pulling back and trying to one back their currency with gold and find other ways to trade. Okay, now you have China, you have Russia, you have these other countries that are uniting. Okay, and that is pushing United States in another direction in which they have to defend themselves. They have to keep their position from being alleged bullies. Okay? Now, all of that goes to say is that we still have no foot in the game while all of this is happening. If we didn't even want them to go to war, we didn't even talking about that. We still just talking about getting rights in Black America and them to stop killing us. Okay. Do you understand how detached we are as a nation from actually what's going on in society and how that's why they look at us like we're literally lost sheep? And it's not all of us, but it's a good amount of us that is not aware and not focusing. No matter what your financial situation, no matter how hard your life is, I think that you should take the time to be aware of what's going on around you, because just like what happened with the world pandemic, if you were aware and paying attention to what's going on, you would have been able to start preparing for it. I was one of the people that figured this out in February into March. Yeah, I know actually January, because I was into researching and I ended up finding out about it. And I prepared myself. I try to prepare my family, tell them about it, this, that, and the third. They didn't pay no mind to me, just like Black people do now. You see someone talking about something that's not entertaining, something that's not funny, can't keep your attention for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. You feel offense. It doesn't resonate with you or what you believe, or what you believe that you haven't researched, that you haven't taken the time to look into different subjects. You cut it off. Same thing. And which actually literally put all of them at risk. You know what's going on right now. So in the midst of them being in a rocky situation, which is the United States, we are in the middle and not even knowing what's going on. We're in the middle of these people's judgment. We're in the middle of our judgment, their judgment, our judgment, and we don't even realize what we have to do to actually fix our judgment. We don't even realize what our judgment, because a lot of y'all hate the Bible. Oh, she's the Bible pusher. She's literally, the book of Deuteronomy is talking about us. All you got to read is just that one section. You can listen to it. Just listen to the book of Deuteronomy. You don't have to listen to nothing else. And I promise you, once you listen to the book of Deuteronomy, it's going to wake you up and realize that it is us and that we're in deep shit, Black people. And if we do not wake the hell up and spiritually, ethically, get ourselves together, then financially we will be able to, because we're not going to be blessed until we align ourselves with the Most High. Point blank, period. Okay? It's judgment for all. If you figure out, they're even in the Bible. The Caucasians that's going on right now, the war, it's in Obadiah. If you listen to Obadiah, you're going to hear about the nations that's warring against each other and how actually descendants of Esau what end up putting them in a bad situation, that their greed literally made them unite with so many nations. They end up being snaked. And this is in Obadiah. Read the Bible like it's a story. Listen to it. You're going to realize that it's playing out again. It's playing out again. So they have their judgment, and we're in the middle of our judgment right under them. What position are we in? What will happen if Russian troops come in right now? What would you do? Where would you be? How would you be prepared? This is what we really need to talk about. All right. So it's judgment for us all. I'm going to tell you it's a great transition. Even though I talk about it as a judgment for us all, I'm going to always refer to it. This is what gives me the strength, because once I started learning about all of this stuff, my status ain't right. They calling me Black. I'm not connected to nothing. Me, I'm connected to Haiti, but Haiti fucked up. Barbados bougie and all sold out. You know, I think Barbados got they told Queen, didn't they tell the Queen to get the hell out too? Barbados. Yep. Told the Queen to get out. So yeah, just trying to get their independence, but we still fucked up. All of us fucked up. So I had to realize, like, yo, God, you showing me all of this. The status messed up. I worked so hard to be a nurse. They taxing me all of this money. Single mother. The Black man acting all fucking crazy. I ain't putting no butt injections in me, in my chest, in my butt. I'm not going to act fake. Where the hell? Where are we going? Where am I going? Why did you bring me here? Why did you bring me here? Bring me like a person like me, because I sure enough don't fit into this shit. You know what he said? You know what the Spirit said? What you there to fight? Because at the end of the day, we win. But a lot of us are going to not win. And I'm going to keep it real. One of the things that Dr. Umar said is that, and I'm going to agree, because Dr. Umar got to have some Haitian in him or something. One of the things he said is that a lot of us are going to pass away. A lot of us Black people are going to pass away and have to pass away, because we're going to be stuck in the ignorance, literally stuck in the ignorance, literally selling each other out. What did you think Harriet Tubman did? What did you think she did? What? When she came back, and if you was about to talk, period, she must have had the blood in them. And that's how we feel. I'm down. That's how I feel. I ain't trying to say y'all that, but I'm just telling y'all, if you ain't down, you're not part of it. You're literally going to be an informant. This is how they took down the COINTELPRO took down all of the movement. But at the end of the day, I'm going to have to keep it real. It is a big transition, and we're going to win. The ones who have a righteous heart, have a mind for God, have the commandments written on your soul, which is pretty simple. You don't got to be perfect, but if you're knowingly and willingly just sinning, talking about God gonna save me because I'm a Christian, He forgive me. No, when you really read the Bible, you start, not just the Bible, other stories. The Adam and Eve, the real Adam and Eve story, the whole story is like 5 hours. Okay, I have it. I listened to it. I'm going to upload it on the archive channel that I have on my other platforms. Yes, God is a mean God. If you don't listen to Him, He's going to spank you. Okay, I'm just going to keep it real. That's why a lot of us are going through what we're going through. You're still going through the judgment, and you're trying to indulge in sex, money, drugs, this society under your captors, like that's going to make you get away from it. I'm just going to tell you, the hardships that I went through, I thought I was going to get away from it, trying to indulge in the world. That shit put me down under even more, into the pits of hell, feeling like shit. Terrible. Only thing that's been getting me through, and I'm going to be honest, that's going to get us through, is literally prayer and having faith that something better is coming, and planning and doing. Planning and doing. planning and doing. I mean, not just talking about it. Not, literally sticking to a code that we buy from here and only here. We deal with this and only this. We don't deal with this method or this method anymore. We deal with this. Those are the people that's going to survive. In the next 3 to 5 years, when I watch this video again, I'm going to be remarkably surprised. And I pray that it's a good surprise, but I know a lot of us are not going to make it because they're even telling us that right now, not only that they're trying to put everybody on this digital currency, which I know y'all not going to like. You're not going to like it, Black people. They're going to monitor the drugs you buy, the sex stuff you buy, all types of shit, tax. Then they've been talking about this 30% consumption tax. This is why I'm censored, because I'm so well-rounded in so many stuff. I'll have y'all talking about everything. Literally, Georgia and other states are trying to move forward. We're doing away with state and federal tax, okay? Y'all probably don't make no sense to y'all. But if they do away with the state and federal tax, what they're going to do is do a 30% consumption tax, which means every single thing you buy, from one phone to this cup to whatever, is going to have 30% on it, which will financially bankrupt us. But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. This is what I'm saying. This live right here, this talk right here is only going to work for certain people. The rest of you just click on off because you're not going to know what I'm talking about. Save that. Come back when I'm talking about celebrity gossip. I'm talking about literally getting souls prepared for the transition that is happening right now. You have these financial experts that's saying the market is going to basically correct itself. They're going to pull the equity out, all of this inflation, and guess who's going to suffer? Us, if you don't know how to move properly. Okay, so just to let you know, it's a great transition. There is undisclosed agreements that's going to be revealed. Now, I don't know what this means, honestly. Sometimes I say things like, I just took these notes down and said, let me just write them down so I can stay aligned. But this came, undisclosed agreement revealed. Stars are not shining stars. You're going to see that these people are going to reveal the contracts that they have. I promise you. Stars are already revealing them visually to you, but now that they're visually telling you, and the time is moving forward, and Satan know that his time, whatever y'all call him, know that is over. They're coming out hot. You're going to have these people come out and say who they are. Like, what is that girl name? She literally shaved her head bald and had all the red stones all on her face. And these people are showing you exactly who they are and what they represent. And you're taking it as it's fashion. You're filling your cup with iniquity. You're filling your cup with iniquity. If you don't want to survive, keep on going the route you're going. That's all I'm telling you. You're either going to be enlightened or offended today. Because God said, let me just get this off my chest, because I'm about to get really busy. I'm just going to keep on doing the celebrity gossip, and then I'm going to do a few Hebrew radio music box. But I just had to do this. The Spirit says, sit down and talk to them. Let them get to know who Lashley really is and why I'm censored, and why you have a lot of other content creators that are afraid of me, that are really afraid of me, because they know that I'm going to pull you away from the content that's trash and wake you up, and they got to wake up too. But it's okay. If you're watching me, you're going to start waking up, and you can wake up your actual people slowly but surely. I see you watching. I appreciate it too. I know you ain't going to big me up, help me. It's sad because Black people don't do that. But don't worry, we're going to catch you on the other side like I always told them. When they told me I couldn't be a nurse because I was too rough, and I said, baby, yes, I am. And I'm going to be one of the best ones. And I am. Like I said, you saying I can't be a content creator? I'm going to be blackballed and censored? No. I don't take no for an answer. Y'all going to see me on top in a couple of years. I promise you. Love it or hate it. Now, as I talk about, a lot of us actually, our actions are actually stemmed in demon possession. Okay? I'm going to have to give it to you. There's a great transformation coming. And when they talk about the transhumanism, they're not talking about not only the mutation between man and cyborg, but the transhumanism means transition you out of humanism, period. Whatever way they're going to do it. Either it's going to be cyborg, either the trans movement, that movement, or it's going to be demonic possession. being where your body is literally possessed. Y'all need to start looking into demonic possession. That has been going up literally. Okay, we a lot of spirit prayer warriors that's out there, demon slayers. I don't know what you want to call it, but I'm telling you, we out there, we ready. Because at the end of the day, we know what's going on. A lot of these people are filled with demons. 1 minute they showing one face, and all of a sudden they turn to somebody else. This is the reason why I meet them in person. A lot of the people who I met in person in Atlanta, they sat there and they was back because that spirit knew that I was coming in as a demon slayer. I'm coming. I'm coming. I ain't coming for you, but I'm coming for where God puts me. And if you in the way, you get mowed the fuck over. Excuse my language. I cursed and I said God. I apologize. So basically, what I feel like us as Black people, we refuse to see the situation we in. We are severely blinded, and it's troubling to me. Okay, I don't want to be Harriet Tubman. I don't want to be the only one coming back and forth over the bridge and taking one person at a time, one person at a time. It has to be more of us. Okay, and we have to do this because time is moving forward. Now, what I do truly believe, and I do know, according to the book, a lot of you guys are going to wake up so fast and start getting the job done. Okay? But the only way y'all gonna do that if y'all hear commentary like this, y'all literally sit down and it clicks. Baby, you in the wrong position. They're taking your rights away. They're giving them and they're taking it away. Who are you? What are your nation? What is your bloodline? What is your situation actually in society? How could you fix it? What if they cut all Black people off from off of the off of the digital currency? How do you know? What if we can't get into work because of some of the things that Dr. Umar talked about, which is actually us not having the educational requirements now because they're not letting us in the predominantly white schools who are already known and have a lead head in the corporate world because a lot of them came from the predominantly white schools. Okay? Okay? So that's some of the things we're going to talk about tomorrow night when I do that reaction video to Dr. Umar. I know I've been going in a little bit, but I did want to get some of this stuff off my chest. And I did want you guys to actually meet me, Lashley, Grace Levi, outside of Uncensored Enlightenment Talk. This is our urban politics. Our urban politics is actually supposed to be my brother's segment. My brother is actually incarcerated in Jersey, but he has been taking a break from that segment right now, working on some other things. Yes, you can work on some stuff when you're incarcerated. So I have taken over the urban politics, and I'm going to continue to move it forward till he's ready to re-enter the team. Now, with that goes to say, I've been going in for a while, and I hope y'all do appreciate some of the things I was saying. Let me know if it makes sense or if it doesn't. I do have playing platforms where I upload almost 4 to 5 days a week on Facebook to different platforms. I have a Nurses to Nurses news platform, not on YouTube because of the censorship, but actually on Odyssey, Rumble, and BitChute, which is doing pretty good. And we also upload on Facebook. So that's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Monday and Fridays, I am focusing on my business where I invest in tax liens and tax deeds. I have a full course. And that's to the people who say, oh, you can't do nothing without the system. Oh, you as a nurse, you depend on the system. No, I know that they're trying to hold me at bay and that I'm going to be capped even as a nurse, that I won't be able to have what I need to build a generational wealth. So I'm about to do it another way, in which I've been doing this for 5 years. And on Mondays and Fridays, I actually teach. So taking the qualifications that I have learned from their institutions, which I like I said, it's very important because they have certain criteria and certain access to things and certain treaties with other countries that give them other access to educational programs that we don't. So if we don't have those accesses to those other countries and other forms of technologies, how are we going to advance in the HBCUs? You see what I'm saying? So the information, things that you learn from the others, you're supposed to take and make it your own. And that's what I have done. So on Mondays and Fridays, I go live and I teach people about methods of how to invest in tax liens and tax deeds, I teach you how to research law and all types of other stuff like that. Skills that Black people need, because if they ever call me, oh, I'm gonna have my shit together. That's why I'm censored. They like this. She know the law. She know her status ain't right. She knows she gotta separate from the social security number and correct her status. She know biblically who she is. She know her bloodline. Let's censor her ass. So before I go into the video that I'm going to show you, just remember E1B1 is something you need to research. Everybody, Black people. Okay? E1B1. So I want to say I love you. I want to say thank you so much for being with me. And let me see, can I play us some music going out the door? Because y'all know I love my reggae music. Let me see, can I play some music going out the door? Okay? And then we're going to actually play. We're going to play. Matter of fact, we're going to be playing a video from Dr. Amos Wilson, and it's going to follow up on a lot of things that I talk about. Okay, so you're going to hear a speech from him, and that's what I'm about to do. I want to say thank you for being here with Lashley, and I appreciate you. Then I had some dummy talking about you vote for the old white man. I didn't vote for nobody, you big dummy. I don't participate in this damn system, you fucking fool. You ain't hear shit I said, you big dummy. Fucking idiot. Who says that stupid shit?
I woke up in a wilderness today, a place my mind could not remember, but my soul already knew. No longer searching for a steady breeze, there is soil on my skin and salt water in my blood. A descendant of God, I feel as if I am sunshine with a pulse. I bear my fertile flower from which humanity originates. Rivers of milk flow from me, and I watch as entire kingdoms bow. All the children are here, barefoot in the morning, and the dirt is rich with many treasures.
The real estate market often seems like a distant world where only an elite of experts is successful. In a time of so much uncertainty in the air and bad news, realist investing can seem intimidating. But today, I want to tell you that if you make the right decision today, you can enter the real estate market from the back door. Bad credit record? No credit at all? Do you dread the idea of having a home loan? Do you dream of owning investment properties? You are in the right place and right time, because we have created a program which is a tax lien and deed investment online course of only 14 hours. This course is specially designed for people like you who have big dreams. You will learn at your own pace and everything from your home computer. This is your chance. Join our membership for $19.99 a year. What are you waiting for? Visit our website primetimehomebuyerBuyback.org and sign up today for course access.
Thank you very much. It's indeed a pleasure to have been invited to speak to you this evening and to share this time with you this evening, and to wish you all the best of the coming year and the years to come. I'm going to talk a bit about special education this evening. I want to beg your indulgence, though, because for many people it may not appear that I'm talking about education directly. We have to be aware of the fact that sometimes we really may not serve ourselves so well when we appear to come directly at problems such as special ed, you see. Because sometimes when you come so directly at it, you omit looking at the context of the problem. And we also have to watch the tendency, due to our being here in this system, to focus so exclusively on one issue that we ignore other very important issues. This system, for instance, tries to get us to talk about problems that confront us as people and not consider the political, economic context in which these problems are generated. And often, though we are well-meaning, when we do this, we end up not solving the problems. So I'll beg your indulgence because I'm going to talk a bit about some things that may appear not to be directly related to special ed, but I think you will realize that they are. I want to start off by indicating that for the African in America, whether a slave or a so-called freedman, has always been subjected to a special education. And this is the thing we have to recognize. We have to forget that this thing called special education is something special. There's nothing special about special education. Black people have been specially educated from day one. We've always been the subjects of a special education. So this thing that you call special education is special education within special education. It's just a subclass of the general special education to which we have been subjected as a people and to which we are now subjected as a people. This is no less the case, this being subjected to a special education today as it was in 1619 when we first set foot on this planet. And for the same essential reasons, that is, we're specially educated in this system for essentially the same reasons in 1993 as we were in 1619. I have told you often that there are certain things that remain constant despite all obvious changes. And it is very important that we as a people recognize the constants and not be deceived by apparent changes. We must recognize when the changes are engaged in order to maintain the constants, to keep the world the same. And many times many of us are deceived by apparent changes. And we then lose sight of what is consistent in the world. I've talked then about what I call European constants, those intentionalities of Europeans that have been present since the 15th century, as far as we are concerned, are still present right here today and are expected by Europeans to be present into the foreseeable future. And no matter what has happened, these expectations have remained consistent. And if there have been changes, and drastic changes in terms of our relationships to Europeans, these constants have remained the same, and these changes have been engaged in to maintain them. Some of those constants you've heard me mention. One, of course, which is very important, which we see operating in Africa today, which we've seen operating in Panama and Grenada, and which will operate in the future on the African continent and other places where African people are, is what we call the military differential. With Europeans who are 10% of the population, their continued dominance rests on their maintaining superior military force. In fact, to a great extent, our being over here today is the result of military differences. There is no intention for the Europeans to equalize that differential between Africans and themselves. That differential has been there since we met them, and it has really not changed up to this very moment. And we see it operating in Africa at this very moment. And there is the intention that it will continue to operate in the world. Hidden behind this intentionality are a lot of glorious looking things, such as non-proliferation treaties. The treaty that Bush just signed with Yeltsin, perpetrated in the name of peace, when it is nothing more than an intention to maintain European power by limiting the growth of military power on the part of non-European people. It has nothing to do with peace. It has to do with maintaining superiority and white supremacy in the world. So we must not be deceived by these games. To maintain the European, of course, has all intentions to maintain the economic differential. There is no intention for the Europeans to see Africans as equally, economically equal with them, no matter what the talk is about. There is every intention for the European to continue to exploit African natural and human resources, no matter in what guise, even though he may appoint African so-called leaders and support African regimes. The intention is the same as it always has been, to maintain economic advantage of African people, to maintain the technological differential. These are constants. And we saw European technology as it was used against our ancestors. The intention is that it will be used in the future as it is used now. The Europeans intend to maintain the power of definition, which we'll talk about tonight. Because special education, as we will talk about shortly, is a definition. And as I said, I think earlier today, before we get involved in a discussion of special education, we should ask, why have we permitted the Europeans to define what it is? Why do they have the power to do so? And why do we submit to their definition of our behavior as a people? So before you get caught up in the intricacies of whether tests can differentiate between the learning disabled and the non-disabled, you should ask first questions first. Who determines it? And why are they able to impose their determination on us as a people? It is through then defining the world, as we will elaborate, that the European manipulates the world and maintains his power in it. And therefore he intends to maintain that power of definition. He intends to maintain control of the domain of discourse. A great deal of the discussion today over the various kinds of curriculum, multicultural curriculum, the curriculum of inclusion, the African-centered curriculum, and so forth, are struggles with the European over who will define what it is important to talk about. What shall be taught and what shall not be taught. What people shall learn and not learn. What educational experience shall people undergo and not undergo? Because all of these are related to power and to power relations. And therefore, if the European is intending to maintain power and control of the world, he must seek to maintain control over the domain of discourse, to decide what is worth talking about, to decide what is news, to to decide the subject matter of curricula of various types. There are other areas. The area, of course, of always making those things African secondary to those things European. These constants were there from the beginning. They're here now, and there's every intention for them to remain in the future. Despite the elevation of blacks to high-level jobs, despite, some amounts of assimilationism, and despite some multiculturalism in the schools and so forth, these intentions remain the same. And it becomes very important for you to watch the changes and how they maintain these things. Because if you are to gain power in the world, it must be these very things which must be changed, ladies and gentlemen. The education of Africans has always revolved around education for servitude. That has not changed one whit. I have warned in Awakening the Natural Genius of Black Children that the main purpose of education is not preparing black children for jobs. It is not preparing them to work for white folk. That is not the main purpose of the education of our children or our people. For if that is our main purpose, then it means another constant has remained in the world, and that's the constant of slavery under a different name. Now it's called looking for a job. With the same people having the jobs and the same people determining our wages. If you're talking about true change in the world, then you must educate yourself to create your own jobs and to employ yourself. But today, education for blacks, I don't care how high it is essentially still being defined in terms of servitude. And we think when we are educated in terms of how and where we will be employed by Europeans. That has to change. But the education of black people from 1619 right to this very moment has had this as a central tenet. Training black folk to serve white folks' interests. Training black folk to be as productive as possible for Europeans, with the Europeans owning the means of production. Education that was separate and unequal. And believe me, I'm not an advocate of integrated education. Education that was ultimately and is ultimately degrading to black people has not changed. It was that way from the beginning, and it's that way right now. Education that ultimately insults the history and culture of African people. Education that is Eurocentric, meaning an education that prepares black people to maintain European power as the central power in the world. Education of black people according to the white man's estimation of black intelligence and his need to shape and direct it. I've warned you before that you need to change the definition of intelligence before you get into an argument with Europeans as to whether their tests are measuring intelligence or not. You must ask, what is the political function of your definition of intelligence? What is the political economy of your definition of intelligence? And why is it that the way you define intelligence always ends up that means intelligent people work for you and your interests? So consequently then, we must recognize as an African people that the ultimate goal of intelligence must be that of preparing a people to solve their problems. The way intelligence is defined today and in America is such that if we as African people are said to behave intelligently, We are behaving in ways to perpetuate our oppression and to maintain European power over us. And therefore, it becomes important to the European to define what intelligence is and to define how it is measured. And for us to engage in futile arguments as to whether it's caused by cultural differences or genetic differences, when it really is not even the point. According to Henry Allen Bullock, author of A History of Negro Education in the South from 1619 to the present, in the beginning there was no thought of educating Negroes. Yet the necessity to do so was always present. You see, ultimately the white man is faced with a dilemma. In his heart and way, he would not like to educate us, but the very structure and demands and dynamics of his economic system in a way forces him to do so. And so even though he had no intentions, and you can see in the history books some overt statements about not educating blacks, because if you read the history of Frederick Douglass, you saw the issue there of the slave master and his reading abilities, what kind of problems they created. But in a sense, the white man's education of the African man under white supremacy has been very ambivalent, both intentional and non-intentional. Bullock goes on to say that soon after the establishment of the slave regime in the American South, there was set in motion unintentional processes destined to introduce the first of many educational opportunities that Negroes were to have prior to the Civil War. Because we must recognize that the plantation system and the slave system was what we call a rational system, in the sense that it was an organized economic system and operated according to definite goals and intentions. And another expression of rational business practice in terms of the slave system of the South appeared in the attempts of planters to utilize their labor efficiently. You see, so if you've got an economic system, whether that system is called slavery or not, ultimately you want to make it function efficiently to get the greatest bang for the buck. A complex system of division of slave labor was instituted on every plantation, and all of this was done in pursuit of maximum production per unit of slave labor. If you would read the magazines during this period, you will see great discussions as to how to maximize production on the plantation, how to relate to the slaves, how to train them, and how to motivate them so as to maximize profit. So within the broad limits of this rational system, he, the slave master, was expected to require and get absolute obedience, loyalty, docility, diligence, and other patterns of behavior considered essential for profitable production and survival of the slavery economy. Another constant that has not changed, has it? Not at all. For ladies and gentlemen, this is the central essence of the education of African Americans today. To maximize what? Production for Europeans, and to establish in the African body absolute obedience, loyalty, docility, diligence, and other patterns of behavior considered essential for whom? For Africans themselves? No, profitable for production and survival of the European economy. That's why we define ourselves in terms of our education as preparing to get jobs from Europeans. And how best to what? Qualify ourselves to fit in the European economy so that we can aid its efficiency. The laws of every slave state backed the normative line which he, the master, could draw and every slave was expected to fear the consequences of any deviation from the range of tolerance his master set. And we shall see again, these rules that determine special education still have these things in mind, because these rules are rules that determine deviancy and non-deviancy. And their purpose is to correct deviant black behavior and bring it back in line with European economic and political intentions. And to create in our children personality orientations and behavioral orientations that are supportive of those intentions. These requirements, that is, set up by the European, set a rigorous socio-cultural matrix within which young Negroes were to be socialized and were to become the personality types required by the rational order. We were going to come back in a minute to what we call the political economy of the personality and the political economy of normality, you see, because we are used to looking at normality as a psychological concept and a psychological state. No, ladies and gentlemen, normality essentially is a political and economic state, not a state of psychology. So however, we've been deceived, you see. But we'll get back to that in a minute. All the slaves could not be efficiently utilized as the rational system required unless they were trained in the ways the system by law itself prohibited. In a sense, the system broke its own laws in order to increase its efficiency. And even though it might have had laws against teaching slaves to read, slaves still were taught to read. And teaching slaves other things, slaves learned many skills and so forth. Why? And in a sense then, slaves started their education on the job in America and received on-the-job training. They also were hired out in other professions where they earned monies for their masters and brought the money back. With all due respect to Malcolm X, there were greater divisions than field hands and house servants. There were deep hierarchies of slaves with numbers of skills and so forth. The slaves not only worked in the house, or not only worked in the fields, but they worked throughout the Southern economy. They were millwrights and carpenters and blacksmiths and shipbuilders and all other kinds of things you could name. You recognize that in many areas of the South, after the emancipation, there were more skilled black laborers than there were white laborers as a result of their training on the plantations. And that is a whole nother story. And it's amusing today to see people talking about black people as unskilled, as if our lack of skills were here since we started. That was not the case. We had to be de-skilled as a people in this country. And those skills began right on the plantation. We were hired out. In a sense, then, the plantation was the first training school for African people. And to a great degree, the slave masters recognized, as they do today, that a trained slave could sell for more on the marketplace. And therefore, when you went on the auction block, the more skills you had, the more he could fetch for you. In fact, some of the skills were developed as an investment so that when the slave was sold, he would bring more than was invested in it. Sounds like today, ladies and gentlemen? Sounds like this kind of thing when we are told, we tell our children to build your marketable skills so that when you go on the auction block in front of your white employer, you can demand a higher price because you can project the skills that he has set in you. What do the French tell us? More things change, the more they remain the same. And this capacity we must maintain, or else we will be deceived by superficial changes that so many of our people are. Some of you heard me on the radio this morning. You heard some references to Colin Powell as representing some advancement for African people. And yet those of us who have a little knowledge of African history and of the history of the Byzantine Empire know very clearly that there were slave generals. Yes, generals who led massive armies who were slaves. And despite the fact that they were generals and led imperial armies, they were slaves just the same. So the idea then that you're going to have an African man under the power of European and white supremacy being a general, that he represents some kind of power and advancement for black people is a delusion. And I'm certain if you read people even like Chancellor Williams, and God bless his soul, rest his soul, who talks about those Africanized Arabs also leading those armies against whom? Other Africans. So let's not get carried away about black man being ahead of the U.S. Armed Forces, ladies and gentlemen. Because essentially he's going to play the same role that we've always played when we were promoted to these second-hand positions. That is, leading aggression against our own people. Let's look a minute at the political economy of the personality. You see, before we talk about personality as a psychological entity, ask yourself the question, what is its political and economic function? You see, we get a lot of people get caught up about normality and abnormality and trying to define what is normal and what is not normal. Before you get caught up in asking that question, ask yourself, what is the social function and the political function of normality? You see, in other words, then, the personality, to a great extent, is a political creation and a social creation. So is normality. That is why they are defined differently by different cultures. And that is why what is called normal in one may be perceived as abnormal in the other. And therefore, to a great extent, what is normal and what is abnormal are the results of the interaction of social power and social forces within a society. The personality and abnormality are the results, to a great extent, of the systematic use of reward and punishment on the bodies of people. Threat and intimidation, control of information, control of interaction and social interaction in such a way that over time, people tend, as a result of social conditioning, to behave in particular ways. And often then, those who define what is normal and what is the normal and what is the normal personality are those in power. And their definition of personality and normality involves then the conditioning of people in such a way that in relating one to the other, in those people perceiving themselves in particular ways, in perceiving the world in particular ways, they maintain a social and economic system. They respond to particular authorities and particular types of stimulation and specific types of signals. Am I making myself clear? And therefore, all of what's involved in special education as an indication of deviant personality or as an indication of them abnormality ultimately is built and structured right into the political and economic system of this world. And we must keep this in mind before we just fall for the okie doke and take what somebody else describes as normal. Ladies and gentlemen, to be a normal black man and woman under white supremacy, according to white definition, is to be sick, according to African definition. Yes. Personality and normality involves a particular organization of the person's ways of thinking, the organization of a person's ways of behaving, of seeing the world, of seeing himself, of looking at the world and relating to people in that world. More deeply, it is an organization of people's tastes and interests and desires. And if you look closely at it then, normal people in a particular society will be interested in those things that maintain that society. Will have desires which, if satisfied, maintains the power relations in that society. Am I making myself clear here? Okay? They will be interested in things that maintain power relations. They will define themselves in ways that maintain power relations. The way some black men define themselves today as skirt chasers, as beer drinkers, looking at a TV set, watching men run into each other and fall down. That's a man. Keeping up and being solely obsessed. Like women, solely obsessed, as we say, with playing with balls. Yes. Drinking themselves into a stupor, looking at people run and bang into each other and get up and run again. Not reading, not studying war, not developing economic power, not developing military power, not learning how to relate and associate with other men and women to form an organization that will be an expression of African power and to liberate African people. That somehow has been made to be perceived by many of our young men and women today as to be engaged in feminine or less than manly activities. And the society is willing to pay black males millions of dollars to maintain those interests. That's why I have told you in other contexts that man has little to do with your penis or your testicles. What is a man is a social definition. It is a political definition. The definition of what is a man must be ultimately connected to the needs of the society itself, so that a man in acting out his manhood is maintaining his social group. If man is not defined, and what it means to be a man is not defined socially and in terms of his social group, then he will not be social, but antisocial. And one of the major reasons then our males are attacking our own societies and communities today is because they have not correctly defined what it means to be a man. A normal African man would not kill another man in order to take the money he rifles from his pocket to a white man and give it to him and make him rich so that he can rule over him further. Not normality. In fact, you don't even have to go that far. A normal man, black man, doesn't work day and night only to give his money to a white man. You have to be abnormal. But of course, the white man has to make you feel that that is what? Normal. And that is the American way. And you're doing what you want to do, and nobody else can tell you how to spend your money. You are now expressing American individualism and what it means to be free. Isn't it strange? And watch it, ladies and gentlemen, every means by which the normal African American defines his freedom ends up supporting white folks. To prove that he can live anywhere he wants to, he's got to move into a white neighborhood. To prove that he's free to go to any school he wants to, he goes to a white school. To prove that he can spend his money anywhere he wants to because he's a free man, he spends it with white folks. You understand? Yeah. White man feels as free as a bird and feels no compulsion to live among you and does not feel that his freedom is infringed upon at all. Doesn't feel any compulsion to go to school with black folk. He doesn't feel like he's unfree because he's not going to school with you. He doesn't feel as he's unfree because he's not spending money with you, because he's not laying in the bed with you, and all these other kinds of things. But the Negro, in order to feel free and express his freedom, must spend and give his money and his labor power and everything else to everyone else but himself. That establishes him as a free individual and a normal individual. So then normality, you see, ladies and gentlemen, more than a psychological function, is a political and economic function. Because as you express your normality, as you express your law-abidingness, you maintain the system. Yeah. You heard me talk about this morning. Our respect for the law. The law, as if it represents something holy and above all people. The law is nothing but a bunch of rules laid down by one gang of people who have the power to enforce it on another gang. Understand? Nothing sacred about it. And it's passed and ratified to protect group interests, one set of group interests against what? Another set of group interests. That's all it's about. Nothing sacred about it. But you see, if you see law and law-abidingness as indicative of pro-social behavior and indicative of normality, then by obeying that law and looking at law that way, you will have to do what? Maintain the people who passed the law in what? In power. It was until Martin Luther King and others decided that they would do what? Break the law. Okay? Break the law. Be what? Abnormal. That the power relations and the social relations of America began to tumble down. So you have to be careful, you see, how you define yourself. A.R. Luria argues in his book, Cognitive Development, Its Cultural and Social Foundations, and I recommend this highly to those of you who are in education, A.R. Luria, because it demonstrates so very clearly how the mentality of people are shaped very much by the type of social activities they are allowed to engage in, by the type of social and political structure they are conditioned in as people. The science of psychology has avoided the idea that many mental processes are social and historical in origin. Mental processes just don't flow from the brain as a natural effluvia. Mental processes are historical events and are related to historical experiences, or that important manifestations of human consciousness have been directly shaped by the basic practices of human activity and the actual forms of culture. We have to recognize it. And we don't have time to go into this evening. When the new publication in a few months comes out, Educating Black Children for the 21st Century, we will find in there detail what is being stated here. Of how the mentality and consciousness of our people is very directly related to the experience of our people in America. And how teachers, what you call concrete thinking in African children in these schools is directly related to the fact that African people were brought over here not to think, not plan, not to conceptualize, not to control, but to work and to do what? Concrete things. And the whole thrust of the American experience is to seek to shape the thinking style of African people to fit the role that white people made for them. And therefore, if the roles of African people was to be that of practical workers, concrete workers, then it was in the interest of Europeans to make their mentality concrete and practical rather than conceptual and abstract. But you see, if you don't know this history, and if you don't know the dynamics of how this mentality has been created, and if you don't know the political economy of thought, then when these children come into your schools and they demonstrate what you call concrete thinking, lack of planning, and lack of conceptual thought, you're ready then to label them as learning disabled and relate to them in terms of being learning disabled. I'll be back to that in a minute. The manifestations of African consciousness is directly shaped or influenced by the social political practices and forms of American culture, shaped by the social power relations of white and black people. You know that if we had a different power relationship with white folk, we wouldn't think and behave the way we do now. No, we would act differently and behave differently. To a great extent then, the things we talk about, the things we're interested in, the way we look at ourselves, and all of these kinds of things are a product of the nature of the power relations that have adhered between us and white folk. Imagine how you would be if we were the more powerful ones. In fact, we wouldn't be having this lecture tonight. It wouldn't even be a subject matter. We'd be talking about how we could keep it and how we could protect what? African interests. Right now, we have to talk about how we're going to take it. These relations, these power relations have and are guided by social and legal definitions and rules and their enforcement by whites. These definitions and rules provide standards and ways of judging others as deviants or non-deviants, of transforming an instance of conduct into a deviant or non-deviant act. I want you to keep in mind what I'm talking about in terms of rules, you see, and definitions, because it's what is defined as learning disabled, you see. What is defined as in being in need of special education. And that definition being based on the exhibition of certain types of behavior. And then stigmatizing people based on this behavior. Even though when you get to really look at it, ladies and gentlemen, the behavior is not deviant or non-deviant. These definitions and rules serve a dual function. They provide for the labeling of others and supply the means and the authority to stigmatize the behavior of others. You will recognize as we go on then that when you permit others to label behavior, your own behavior, you are giving them a power over you. And it will be that label which will authorize them to do certain things to you and about you. So they are not just labels, but they are the justifiers of behavior. And they prescribe various behaviors toward those who are labeled. Consequently, definitions and rules are expressions of group, conflict, and interest. I want you to keep that in mind. Labels are not just labels of behavior. Labels are entered into as a part of the interaction between groups. I don't want you to do this, therefore I will make it against the law. And when you do it, I shall call you a criminal. You see? And so, what do we have here? And why am I making this law? And why am I calling you a criminal? So that I can protect what? My interests. You see, and can justify myself in treating you in a particular way so that my interests can be protected. And the formulation, this formulation of rules and definitions translate into power to impose one group's will on the other. The power to define and enforce one group's definition on the other's conduct. This is what this is about. If you look back in your old Bible there, you will see that Adam is symbolically given the power to dominate the earth by God, by the fact that God permits him to do what? Name all the animals, the fish and the fowl, and to name the earth itself. That is a power. And this is a symbol. By saying this, he is saying, you are the one who dominates the world, because I'm going to permit you to define the world, to name it, and to relate to it in terms of the way you define it and name it. This then will give you the right to impose yourself on nature and to impose yourself on the world. Consequently, when you let another people have the right to define your behavior, you let them also have the right to impose themselves on you. And it's amazing what happens when you have definition. You talk about, some of you are familiar with the book Regulating the Poor. It's interesting how so-called normal behavior can in an instant be turned into abnormal behavior by the mere act of labeling. How, for instance, some of you may have gone to Boston, you heard something called the Common Garden, the Boston Common Gardens, a park, which harks back to a European tradition where certain lands belong to all of the people. And the peasants then had the right to hunt on those lands, to fish, to find their firewood, to do various things, to graze their cattle and so forth as a means of supporting themselves. That they had that right. And this right was sanctioned by tradition over hundreds and hundreds of years. But something happened. The price of wool started increasing tremendously and became very profitable. And those who were in power decided then that they wanted as much land as possible. And they went to the British Parliament to get a law passed so that they could enclose what was once common property and fence it off and make this property private. And therefore, overnight now, those people who had been bringing their cattle and doing these things in their normal way were turned into what? Criminals. Criminals. Why? Because their behavior was different? Because they were emitting criminal behavior? No, because the rules had changed. Right overnight. Now they became criminals. And as the price of wool went up, and as the English economy changed, when these landowners no longer needed the peasants on the land, and when they needed them in the developing factories, they literally turned them out into the highways and the byways. And overnight, they became beggars. But also overnight it became against the law to beg without a license. And overnight it was all right then to, if you didn't have a license, to be beaten until the blood ran. And overnight then it became possible to talk about the personality of the beggar. And to see the beggar as having a criminal personality, no doubt built into his genes. Yeah, the same kind of game that we have today. A group of people interested in their profits and interested in maintaining power and control pass laws, and overnight then the behavior of our people suddenly become what? Criminal and abnormal. And now the same behavior that they were exhibiting before the laws were called become indicative of criminal personalities and of illness and abnormality. Let's wake up. And notice then that the labeling and defining of behavior, again, not essentially and only a psychological process, but it is a psychopolitical, psychoeconomic process. As a matter of fact, I will give you a short publication to read shortly called The Psychoeconomics of Black on Black Violence. You thought I was through with it, didn't you? Oh, I knew when I wrote the psychodynamics of Black on Black violence that wasn't all of it. No, Black on Black violence is determined more than internal psychodynamics. Because you must recognize those psychodynamics are a reflection of economic dynamics. They are the psychological reflection of economic demands of an economic system. They do not therefore begin in the psyche of African people. They begin in the very economic structure of European people. And it acts itself out through their behavior. Because the purpose of that system is to organize black behavior, as I said earlier, to maintain itself. When all of those who may have achieved some position of leadership or influence must be perceived as totally and superly clean, and must not be perceived as having one chink of a flaw in their personality. There is no man who is unflawed. He who is without sin cast the first stone. And yet when you demand of your leaders that they be totally saints and total saints, then all your enemy has to do is put one little smudge of dirt on them. And everything of value that they have to offer now is thrown out. And no lessons are learned. Yes, and taste, but your taste had already been dictated by the Europeans. And it had been dictated in such a way that you became gluttons for European things. And being glutton for European things, you gave them all of your money. You gave them more than you even earned. That's why you're in debt today. And in giving away and feeding your gluttonous appetites that the Europeans had inculcated in you, you had no money left to educate your children. No money left to invest in your businesses. No money left to support your families and the other social institutions. And now you wonder why your children are stabbing you in the streets and robbing you. And Elijah Muhammad then said, we will change their taste. Let them eat bean pie. Let them get a taste for this kind of clothing. Let them get an interest in this. Let them lose their taste for alcohol. Let them lose their taste for cigarettes. Let them lose their taste for junk food. Let them eat once a day. Why? Because they spend from $2,000 to $5,000 a year per person buying junk and garbage. And therefore, with that savings, they can build their own institutions. But you see, when you let other people determine your perception of your own leaders, you fall back to be victimized by those people and fall back into your old habits, which of course lead to supporting them. And we have to understand then what this is about. This is why ultimately you see an African-centered education is not a mere teaching of African history and culture, but ultimately a reorganization of the African personality and a reorganization of African taste and interests, such that Africans become self-supporting and self-sufficient and become a powerful people. So you have to be careful, you see. White people are absolutists. Yeah, we're absolutists, you know. It doesn't matter whether you're Christian or Marxist or whatever religion or whatever you belong to. When it comes from other people, we hear something and we believe it because it's absolutely true. You see? Yeah, that's true. And you know, and we dedicate ourselves to it. That's irrefutable. Yeah, this will get you in trouble. You know, again, you Christians, Thomas says, Lord, I believe, but help thy mind what? Unbelief. Don't make me believe too much. You got to prove something to me. You just can't come back here and tell me that you got off the cross, man. Show me the, oh God. Yeah, let me see something here. You see, we just can't take it on your what? Your word. But you see, the idea of the European is to get us to take him on his what? Word. And he handed us the word. Yeah. And he ended up, though, what did we say? With the land and everything else. Why? Because we believe the word only. Absolutely. Because the word to us appeared true. Now, let me quickly show you what I mean by this. A European walks up and says, we shouldn't really see each other in terms of race. We are all human, and the globe belongs to all of mankind. We shouldn't really relate to each other in terms of nationalities. We should be free to move across the earth as we see fit. And we should be free to invest wherever there are opportunities to invest. All of us should have that right. That's called free market. Yeah, free market economy. Oh yeah, that's right, that's right. And of course, we're glad to hear from him, you know. Oh, this man has become civilized at last. But wait a minute, you see, you gotta ask something. Even though you might not argue with the basic premise, you gotta ask, who is saying this? And why are they saying it? What will be the consequence of my believing this? You see? You got to go beyond the absolute truth of something and look at it in the context of power and the context of differences. You see, you got a bunch of people around here telling you, well, we preach universal principles and we talk about universal truths. Then why isn't the bounty of the earth universally distributed? Why aren't the goods of the earth randomly distributed? Why is there a non-random distribution of power and benefits and so forth? And it seems to cluster around the very people who preach universal principles. And the people who believe it most have it least. Yeah. Because you see, that guy is telling you that we all should be free to invest wherever opportunity lies is the only guy that has what? The money. And therefore, through your very moral belief, you will give consent to having your property owned by others, to have your resources owned by others. And then you'll find yourself wondering, why do good people suffer? It's built in. They suffer because they believe in absolute truth and nothing else. And the more they suffer, those who preach those absolute truths tell them that they suffer because their belief is isn't strong enough. So they believe harder and become poorer. And therefore, we find among us the people who play the loudest and the longest and kick over the benches and fall back tend to also be the poorest in the society. You have not learned anything from your Bible. That very first book demonstrated to you that the Israelites had a contract with God called a covenant. You scratch my back, God, and I'll scratch yours. God would say just to say, I'm going to lay down on my ground and just worship you. You do whatever you want to me. That wasn't what it's about. When you read it closer, you'll see Moses negotiating. That says, okay, God says you do this, and what? I'll do that. You break the rule, then you will suffer. But if you follow the rules, then I will deliver. So God also does what? Serves. He's not only served, he what? Serves. But the Negro is only taught to what? Serve God. And therefore, we serve religions, but our religions do not serve us. Somebody told Elijah Muhammad, being a black Muslim makes you unorthodox. That's exactly the point. Because being black Muslim means that Islam will serve whom? Black folks. Just won't be an instance of black folks serving what? Islam alone. But Islam, being black Islam, becomes an Islam that operates in the service of black folk and black interests. Hope you understand what I'm saying here. You understand? We have to recognize this, so we got to get over this absolutism. And the Marxists run the same game, scientific socialism. Same old nonsense. In what way does, you got to ask, in what way does my believing this serve me? And in what way do your preaching this and having me believe this serve you? And say, well, what you say is true, and I don't argue against it. I am not in agreement with the consequences. We must also change some other things in our relationship along with this belief, so that in my believing it, I will not be deprived of my freedom or deprived of my resources and of my possibilities. Share some of that doggone money if you believe it so hard. Oh, let me run. I know my time is going out here. We're going to run it through, ladies and gentlemen. Got another speech coming. But due to power differentials, the processes of latent behavior are tantamount to the processes of creation. It goes back to this. The application of certain rules and definitions to others influence how they are related to. When you put a label on somebody, you are also defining how other people, how that somebody is going to be related to by others. It's not a mere label. It is a prescription for relationships, how other people will relate to this individual. It is also a prescription for how this person will be perceived by others and how they relate to themselves and perceive themselves. In other words, then the labeling of people affects their perception of themselves and of the world. And by being labeled, then their vision is transformed. And to a degree, so is their psychology. And so is their relationship with other people. Thus, due to power differentials, the processes of labeling behavior are tantamount to the processes of creation. What am I saying here? The processes of letting Europeans label our behavior and apply their rules and definitions to our behavior is not a mere stigmatizing of our behavior, but it is tantamount to their creating our behavior. For today, ladies and gentlemen, we are a created people. We have been created by the European power system. We have yet to become self-creating. And we will become self-creating when we become self-labeling. And we become labelers of the world ourselves. When we measure our children and relate to them in terms of our measurement, not in terms of other people's measurement of them. Labeling in the prescriptions it implies may therefore become a part of the problem. It is designed to solve. You thought it was going to solve your child's problem when they were taking the special ed? No. It becomes a part of the problem itself. It helps to maintain the problem. It is there to maintain the problem. I was going to do a definition of learning disabled, but in the interest of time, I'm going to skip over this. The process of classifying a child as learning disabled typically begins when a teacher or parent or both becomes dissatisfied with the child's performance in school. And then the child may be tested or tests are recommended. Why are no tests? There are no tests of the teacher. Yeah.
Answer.
No tests
Because
of the
you are
school.
that, you are capable. You are gifted, and you are so unique. All of the things that you may hate about yourself are your strengths. It's okay to be soft. It's okay to be opinionated. It's okay to be different. And it's so okay to just be you. The world awaits to receive you.
Would you like to learn a brand new and innovative way to invest your extra money that has a low barrier to entry and low competition? What if I told you that it is a guaranteed method to get up to 18 to 20% return on your investment? Tax lien and deed purchasing is the only way to get into the real estate market through the back door. No credit and no loans needed. This method isn't commonly taught, and therefore the competition is very low, for now. Put together a 14-hour info-packed course which will teach you everything you'll need to know to get started. Learn at your own pace, step-by-step guided video and aids to start you on the TLC deed investment process. The course offers many learning tools for new investors, helping ensure you safely invest in tax liens and deeds. Contact us today and join the buyback team.